let's meet Afaq Ahmed, founder of Comover Tours.
My name is Afar, and I'm a final year student at IBA. And before I started this venture, I was not necessarily doing anything, but like I had few ventures of my own before this, and I was working on them. Then was also part of the student government in my college, and before that, I did my O levels, and in that I was also in a leadership capacity. So I think all of it mixed up, and here I am sitting in my office right now. I actually had an event management company before I started this. So I worked with few friends over it, but we all got busy with other things, so we kind of laid it off. Basically, how it started was that I was never so interested in entrepreneurship. Like it was not something at the back of my mind that I have to do something of my own. But it all started in college, where I was in a leadership capacity and we used to work for a society and MDT. Basically, we used to organize events. And that's where I realized that I am able to manage things on my own. I am able to plan out things, execute them, and then eventually uh, move on to some other task. That's how like we started it, and that was my motivation behind all this. So, and it resulted in my first venture, which was Trinity Planners, basically an event management company. Uh, we used to do custom events, actually, not so big events, small parties and everything, but that was the starting point. But then I also did some internships a few places, and I realized that I am able to take risk and I am able to take decisions, and I should focus on something which can be built into something big. And yeah, so
Despite having no friends and family in the entrepreneurial space, Afaq's love for adventure trips, interest in the field, and prior experience is what led him to pursue this path of entrepreneurship. So we were curious, who exactly inspires this entrepreneur? And we asked, do you have any role models?
um, not exactly to what I am doing, but I you can say uh, to related to my field. So basically, my venture is related to travel and tours, and I've always been interested in knowing who's in the game and what. And I'm more of a person who is up for you can say adventure trips. But if you can talk about role models, I think my role model is a guy named Nirmal Purja. He's basically someone who summited K2 in winters, something which is admirable and something which is like very tough to do if you know the sports and if you understand how mountain climbing works. So that guy you can say is my role model because he's always pushing up to his limit. He's doing random things which no one even think of, and maybe even right now he's thinking of something crazy out of the box. So he is in a way my role model if I talk about uh, how I think and how I want to ahead for the things, but not related to entrepreneurship or exactly that.
Okay, all right.
We then asked, how has this degree been helpful in his journey?
All right. So honestly, when it all started, I was not at a stage where I had taken a lot of marketing courses or sales courses, I can say. I believe when you are into the field, you understand things in a better way when you are studying them in a course. Although courses are helpful to understand how things work in a global market, because of course, when you are communicating with your team, it's different than someone who's communicating to their team in a different company. But to come at a central point, you have to understand few terms, you have to understand few things, which we understood on our own as well. But with time, I think my degree helped me a little to think, to plan, to move ahead with a lot of things. So you can say like 40% of it goes to my degree, but like 60% is trial and testing and eventually getting this.
Some courses that did help him included analysis of Pakistani industries and marketing issues in Pakistan, as they helped him gain better insight. We then asked him how Afaq and his team were able to spot this opportunity.
So I had a passion for traveling, but as like just everyone else, it's just okay, was socha, but unira. But opportunity came to me by itself. So I was just I think it was September 2020, and it was COVID time, like right after COVID when things were like cooling down, but another peak was coming up. So I had a friend from my college, and he asked me if I wanted to join him for a trip. Basically, he was doing that trip on his own. He was arranging everything. Initially, I was hesitating because I was like, okay, I will think about it. And it was the first time me going out of like going to the Balochistan side. I've never been there before that 2020. So that's how it all started, and I just went to that trip, and somehow I ended up with them. So they just took like 2 trips before me, but they were very casual. And then after that, when I joined them, so we started company structure, we registered the company, and we now even have this small office space. So it started from there.
Okay.
We then asked if any formal evaluation procedures were conducted.
So before like moving completely into it, we started to understand how this basic segment works. So we started to see how competitors are working. Some of us have scouted a lot of places in Pakistan just on our own to understand how hotels are being operated in our country. And when we understood all that, we realized that there is a gap, such huge gap which needs to be filled, and that gap needs to be filled by us and also from the government perspective. It's not just that we are gonna cash out on the opportunity, just take people to the places, but it's a bigger picture. You need to work beyond that. So we realized that. We also saw that the market which exists and the market rates which exist, it is quite profitable unless you're not doing the job the right way. Uh, it's something which is like a good money, and given that Pakistan tourism industry is developing, every day there's a new road coming up, every day there's a new hotel being developed. There's a huge opportunity, and that's what we realized, and then we started working out. In fact, it has been 2 years, but even right now we have so many things coming up because we're just collecting everything and building company from scratch. So yes.
We got to know that no formal business plan was put in place at the start of the business. However, a rough projection of how to take the things forward for the year was made. The business is run by 3 partners with equal stake. Here's how they financed it.
Basically, what happened was that we started from Gorak, so hill station in Sindh, and to initially finance it, because I was not in the picture at that time, my partners, they made a sum of like 20-30,000. They bought some equipment so that they can take few people, and the equipment included tents and sleeping bags and all that stuff. But after the COVID, we invested more. Um, but it was majorly from the money we were earning, not most of it was coming from our pocket, because initially we just had to invest, maybe you can say 50K some to get the company going, to have the resources to take few trips, and eventually once the flow was established, we started investing from the money we were earning.
Okay. Financing, I mean, जो investment थी वो सब equal लेके आए थे?
Yeah, basically, there were more people in the picture at the beginning, like very, very beginning, but they started to move out. So now we just 3, and we 3 have been working for like 2 years now. It was equally distributed, but eventually we had to pay them up so that they.
Let's come over towards business plan. The target audience for the business includes university students and families. Their value proposition includes offering unique experiences at affordable prices with the best service, including last-minute accommodations and customizations. Their key channels include social media, including Facebook and Instagram. Like every new business, Comover Tours also faced several hurdles at the start. Here's what Afaq told
Years
us.
of our operations, of course, we were not so experienced and we had to bear with some losses as well. And it worked in a way that we had like 2, 3 trips in which we lost a lot of amount because of some planning issues and executing issues and also some issues from the client side. Because in a service industry, you never know when a client can say, okay, I no longer want it. I don't want to come. They pay you 50% and they don't show up. Even that's an issue. And sometimes they confirm and they don't show up. So, and you have to take a decision because if you don't, it will be a bad experience for the clients and eventually it will come up to you again.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, the client does not think from a perspective, कि अच्छा यार ये वाली चीजें भी होंगी, ये चीजें करनी. We have to think about it. They just think even if they pay at the end, thing will be done. So because of that and because of having no mechanism to figure out how to avoid that, we had to bear few losses, and that loss was huge. So to recover from it, we had to figure out and plan how to recover it and do a lot of things for like 2.5 months maybe.
Afaq and his team also continue to face several risks and challenges along this journey. Here's what we know about them.
One of a challenge working in Pakistan is that you never know when there will be a road which will no longer be there, when there will be a transport failure, when there will be a hotel which will not be as good as it was before you went when you went there. So and then there are remote places where there are more or less no resources. So if you go Balochistan, you always have a problem which ranges from electricity issues to food issues, everything. These are the challenges, and since this industry is growing, hotel industry in Pakistan is also growing. I mean, if you go to any place, you will find a five-star hotel which has everything, and then after that, there is nothing in middle. Then there are hotels which has nothing, right? Because their services are basic, so you have to survive in that because you cannot afford five-star. You do not have anything middle, so you go to the bottom layer. So those are the challenges which we are facing, and it's difficult considering our target market. They do not have the money to afford it.
Right.
University students are broke most of the time, so you have to deal with it in a way which is a middle ground for both of you. If I talk about risk, the risk involved is that when you commit something to a client and anything happen on the trip, it's on us. It's not on them. Even though it's something um, which is clearly mentioned that any unforeseen circumstances is not on us, but at the end of the day, it's a risk because then again, since I mentioned if our target market is a university student, it doesn't take a lot of time to uh, get the word out and bad mouth, get bad reviews because if you have one student which did not have a good experience with you, they will eventually tell 100 students more about this and they will be convinced that, okay, we are not going with this. So we have to be very careful about it. It's the kind of risk we have to take. Sometimes there's a risk of clients backing off at the last moment, but you have to make sure that you do that thing. Otherwise, if they do not, you do not have the means to take the trip.
However, by developing a good cost structure and good relationships with their partners, Afaq and his team have been successfully able to reduce uncertainty over time. And with their persistence, dedication, and passion towards their venture, they continue to overcome the hurdles they face.
Worst, it's not exactly worst, but there have been times where, let's say, if it was August and we were in Islamabad for a trip, and all of a sudden there was a landslide and the trip was gone. So it was not a worst moment, but it was a moment where you had to think, where you had to make a decision. It was basically a crisis. We stayed up all night. We changed the complete trip. We changed all the location. We changed all the hotels. We talked to all the vendors at night, waking them up from the sleep, and we executed that trip eventually. So yes, that was not a worst moment, but you can say a moment where if there was anyone else, they might have given up or they might have called off the trip, but we didn't.